Good morning, students. Welcome again. Today we will be discussing NCERT Class 10 Economics, Chapter 2, Sectors of the Indian Economy, Part 3. In the previous class, we learned about the rising importance of the tertiary sector in production and where are most of the people employed. Today we will discuss about underemployment, how to create more employment, and finally we will discuss about organized and unorganized sectors. In the last class, we learned that more than half of the workers are working in the primary sector, mainly in the agricultural sector, but they contribute less than 25% of the GDP. We discussed few reasons for that. Another prominent reason for the less contribution of agricultural sector to the GDP is disguised unemployment or underemployment. So now let's analyze what is underemployment. Disguised unemployment or underemployment, it is a kind of unemployment in which some people look like being employed but are actually not employed fully. This situation is also known as hidden unemployment. It refers to a situation wherein more people are engaged in a work than required. When the surplus workers are removed from the work, still the production remains unaffected. They do not help in increasing the productivity as their efforts are not economic. Now let's analyze an example from the rural area. So this underemployment or else the hidden unemployment is seen in the rural area as well as in the urban sector. So in the rural areas, disguised unemployment can be seen mainly in the agricultural sector. Most often, all the members of a family are engaged on the same piece of land. If a few members are withdrawn, there will be no effect on the production. The productivity will be the same. So the members who are withdrawn are in the situation of disguised unemployment. Underemployment or disguised unemployment, we can see even in the service sector also, like painters, repair person, plumber, etc. So all these kind of jobs also we can see disguised unemployment. So many of them do not find work on a daily basis. For example, if there is a shop and in that shop which require only two persons for handling it, but if there are three servants and one owner to look after the shop, then this shows that two servants are in the situation of disguised unemployment. Underemployment can also happen in other sectors. For example, there are people of the service sector on the street pushing a cart or selling something where they spent the whole day but earning very little. They are doing this work because they do not have better opportunities. So these are the examples which will make the concept of underemployment clear. Now let's move on to the second slide explaining about how to create more employment. Here it is specifying that how to create more employment, especially in the rural areas. The first way is by providing irrigation facilities. Loans should be provided to small farmers by the government or banks to have more irrigation facilities like wells and tube wells. So the point is highlighting that the bank should give some loans to the small farmers for the irrigation purpose, to have irrigation facilities, specifically to make wells and tube wells and so on. And apart from providing loans for irrigation facilities, even new dams and canals also can be constructed. So this will lead to more employment in the agricultural sector. Once the dams and canals are constructed, the water problem of the farmers will be solved. So when we construct dams and canals, or else when the banks will provide loan for the irrigation facilities, the water problem of the farmers will solve. At the same time, it leads to employment opportunities, or else it generates employment opportunities to a large group of people. Then the government should provide good roads and transportation facility to transport their final output from the field to the market. So we know that if the farmers, if they want to transport their final output from the field to the market, we need, or else the farmers need, a good transportation facility. So the government can invest in a transportation facility. So the government has to invest some amount to build good all-weather roads to ensure the smooth functioning. So through transportation, some people will get employment, So once the transportation facilities are improved, so after investing in the transportation sector, even the government can also invest the money in the allied sectors. So it means the like the entire output what we got cannot solved immediately within 1 or 2 days. So the government has to open some warehouse or storehouse to preserve these crops. So some farmers, they have large acres of land, so their production also will be more. They will have a surplus of production. So the farmers need a storehouse or else a warehouse to preserve these crops. So the government need to give or else the government need to give some initiatives to help the farmers by providing them a storehouse or warehouse to preserve their crops. So if we have good storage facility, then farmers later they can sell the product when the price is high. So it again improves the income. Then the next is government should always provide seeds of better quality. Not only seeds of better quality, the government also can give fertilizers, then agricultural equipments and so on. So when the government, when they assist the farmers by giving better quality seeds, fertilizers, agricultural equipments and all that at a very nominal price, then the final yield which the farmer will get will be more. At the same time, that also leads to increase in the employment opportunities, specifically in the rural areas. Farming using the mechanized method will result in good production output, as I said, thereby income of the farmers will increase. Then the next is the banks should provide credit to farmers at a low rate of interest. So the farmers can also the banks can also help the farmers by providing loan at a very low rate of interest. Then the government can also start industries and mills in the semi-urban or else the semi-rural areas. So, here it is explaining that the need of starting industries in the semi-urban or the semi-rural areas. For example, the Tata plant in West Bengal, it had provided employment opportunities to hundreds of villages. So when the government will start industries or mills in the semi-urban or semi-rural areas, that will help in giving employment opportunities to hundreds of villagers in that particular area. Then open cold storage facility. The government can also start open cold storage facility for agricultural produce and the kind of perishable products that we have. So the government need to start open cold storage facility, especially to preserve the agricultural produce, especially the agricultural products which will perish easily. For the perishable products, for the perishable agricultural products, government need to start the open cold storage, so that the farmers can preserve the perishable goods in the cold storage and can sell later when the price is high. For example, to store potatoes and onions, the farmers need cold storage facilities. So if the price is less in a particular season, the farmers can preserve the surplus perishable products like onions or potatoes or any other sorts of perishable agricultural products. The farmers can preserve in the cold storage and later they can sell when the price is high. So then another point which is specifying here, industries such as dal mill, then honey collection centers can also start in the rural areas as well as in the semi-rural areas. So such industries will get raw materials from the rural areas and will create more employment opportunities for the rural people. Then another point which we can, what the government can do to create more employment opportunities, more school should be opened in the rural areas. So as per the statistics, it is clear that only 2/3 children are attending the school, specifically in rural areas. So for that, it means from this statistical data, it is very clear that there is a need for more education, or else there is a need for investing more in the education. So we need, the government should take the initiative to start more schools in the rural areas. So this will provide education to the to the children in the rural areas, as well as it will provide jobs for about 20 lakh people in the education sector. And at the same time, to create more employment in the rural areas, the government can invest in the health sector. Health services should be improved by opening dispensaries and hospitals in the rural areas. So this will help the people who are living in the rural areas. At the same time, this will create jobs for doctors, nurses, lab technician, and other staff. Then the government can also invest in the tourism sector. We learned in the geography chapter 7, Lifelines of National Economy. There we learned about the prominence of the tourism industry. So tourism, the tourism sector, or the tourism and the regional craft industry and information technology, all these sectors need to be encouraged by the government to create more employment opportunities. So tourism sector, we learned that tourism sector is giving employment opportunities for more than 35 lakh people. So the government need to invest in the tourism sector, regional craft industry, and the information technology. So when the government invest money in all these sectors, it leads to national development. At the same time, it creates employment opportunities in our country. Next is NREGA. NREGA is National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. It started in the year 2005 by the central government. Later, it is renamed as MGNREGA and came into force on February 6, 2006. MGNREGA is Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. The NREGA 2005 has helped in the upliftment of rural people. The NREGA 2005 is an Indian labor law and social security measure that aims to guarantee the right to work. The objective of the NREGA was enhancing livelihood security in rural areas by providing at least 100 days of guaranteed wage employment in a financial year to every household whose adult members volunteer to do unskilled manual work. Initially, it was implemented in 200 districts of India. Currently, it is implemented in about 625 districts in India. As per the NREGA Act, it assures guaranteed wages. It means wages are to be paid on a weekly basis and not beyond a fortnight. Wages are to be paid on the basis of center notified state specified NREGA wage list. The wage cannot be at a rate less than 60 rupees per day. Another aim of NREGA is to provide employment within 5 kilometers of an applicant's residence. If the work is provided beyond 5 kilometers of distance, extra travel allowance is to be paid. And if the work is not provided within 15 days of applying, applicants are entitled to an unemployment allowance. So these are the key features of NREGA Act. So these types of programs improve the employment opportunities, specifically in the rural areas. Now let's move on to the next slide explaining about the organized sector. Based on the formal structure, we have two types of sectors, that is organized sector and unorganized sector. First, let's discuss about the features of organized sector. Organized sector, this is much more formal. It means it is a formal sector. So there is assured employment in this sector. And it has to follow certain rules and regulations. It is explaining that organized sector covers those enterprises or places of work where the terms of employment are regular and therefore people have assured work. And in the organized sector, they are registered by the government and they have to follow all the rules and regulations which are given in various laws such as Factories Act, Minimum Wages Act, Payment of Gratuity Act, Shops and Establishment Act, and so on. So in an organized sector, they have to follow certain rules and regulations and it should be registered. So there is job security and assured employment also there in the organized sector. It is called as organized because it has some formal process and procedures. Some of these people may not be employed by anyone, but may work on their own, but they too have to register themselves with the government and follow the rules and regulations. Workers in the organized sector enjoy job security, or else they enjoy security of employment. And the workers in the organized sector are expected to work only a fixed number of hours. If they work more, they have to be paid overtime by the employer. They also get several other benefits from the employers, such as paid leave, payment during holidays, provident fund, gratuity, and so on. So apart from all these benefits, the workers in the organized sector will get medical and retirement benefits. So all these are the special features of the organized sector, or is the characters of the organized sector. Now let's move on to the second sector, explaining about the unorganized sector. So unorganized sector means extremely opposite to the organized sector. That is known as unorganized sector. So the unorganized sector is characterized by small and scattered units. These are largely outside the control of the government. So it means unorganized sector are small and scattered units, and the government is not there to control. It means the control of the government, we cannot see the control of the government in the unorganized sector. And there is no job assurance, and there is no full day employment. And again, if you have a full day employment, there is no guarantee that you will be having employment every day. So there is no employment assurance in the unorganized sector. And then we think about the rules and regulations. As I said, in the organized sector, all the rules and government will interfere, and all the rules and regulations need to be followed. Here in the unorganized sector, rules and regulations are there, but these are not followed. And about the salary part, like very less salary, and employment also, we can see seasonal employment in the unorganized sector. Seasonal employment means they don't have work every day, or else throughout the month or throughout the year, people or else the workers don't have employment in the unorganized sector. So we can see seasonal employment in the unorganized sector. And there is no provision for overtime, paid leave, holidays, leave due to sickness, and so on. So it means like if you do overtime work is there. There is no fixed working hours in the unorganized sector. Prolonged working hours is there in the unorganized sector, and less salary. And there is no paid leave, there is no holiday leaves, or else if they take leave any day due to sickness, there is no salary on that day. So all these points are highlighting that the employees are not secure. There is no job security. They are not secure in the unorganized sector. And the employer can ask one fine day to leave without any reason. It means people can be asked to leave without any reason when there is less work. So when there is less work, such as during some seasons, so during such specific situations, the employer will tell the employee to leave the job without any reason. So a lot also depend on the whims of the employer. And this sector includes a large number of people who are employed on their own, doing some small jobs such as selling on the street or doing repair works. Even farmers work on their own and hire laborers as and when they require, are also examples of unorganized sector. So these are the general characteristics of unorganized sector. So in the next class, we will discuss about how to protect workers in the unorganized sector. By this, we concluded um, Economics Chapter 2, Part 3. Thank you, students. Have a good day ahead.